Joining me for this segment of the show, as we have had this week, is Nerima Wako Ojiwa and Joe Halende. Good morning. And thank you for joining us yet again this morning. I can see you guys got the memo. Today, green is the theme color. Yes. I'd actually not noticed until now, so thank you for following the details of the memo. By the way, that's a joke. Really, there was no memo. It just happened to be one of those things. But I guess they say that great minds think alike.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can anchor on that. Now, and again, because we're in the season of handshakes, maybe let me just welcome you with a handshake. But Joe Halende yesterday was telling us that the handshake between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, or with Kafogo and Raila Odinga, basically is just a handshake. It's two Kenyans who are allowed to meet. So, yes. Joe, is this another situation where possibly Raila Odinga and Moi just, happened to be friends and decided to meet?
Let me also join my fellow political commentators on this matter and tell them that whatever people are trying to speculate out of this meeting, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
And what is that they're trying to speculate?
People are trying to speculate that Raila is trying to map himself for 2022. Mm-hmm. Yes. Whatever is happening through this handshake process, it's about 2022, nothing else. Yeah. So people, there's some kind of realignment we are seeing that it's going to shape the race for 2022. And race for 2022, we already have one candidate who everybody knows that is in the race, and that is one William Samoei Ruto. Mm-hmm. But we don't know about the other one.
The rest we were yet to see. Yeah. All right, Nerima, your thoughts on this another, development and interesting meeting?
Yeah, I believe it's interesting. I don't think that things just happened. I don't think that he was just visiting because Moi had come from a hospital visit. But basically, there was a part of the meeting that was private. So again, we will never really know what they discussed in there. But not only that, Gideon Moi did actually say that he would buy in 2022. He did. So there is interest.
He's made it very clear.
He has. So there is interest. So this is now more than a meeting, because now you have a senator who has openly said that he's going to vie for the bid in 2022. And not only that, he's meeting our former president as well. So there's a lot of negotiations happening, and we're talking about power play politically, as much as people don't want to admit it. Politically, people do not just meet. They are normally strategic meetings.
Yeah, especially a meeting like this, which is so close to Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga meeting. Again, looking at the meetings that Raila has had lately, starting with Uhuru, then we have Kafogo. We also have, I think, one of the leaders from Kiambu, Moses Kuria, the Nairobi business community. Now with Moi, there just seems to be something happening. But also, Joe, how do you see this playing out, given that we do know that Raila had, especially now with meeting Uhuru Kenyatta, one of the things that was interesting and glaring is the fact that Ruto didn't seem to be in the picture. Of course, this meeting with Moi, Gideon has to be in the picture, given that it's his son, and also given that Moi had come from hospital. Obviously, he's bound to be there. But what do you see that might be? What is it that is not written?
What is not written is that the person involved in this meeting, one former Prime Minister Raila, Honorable Raila Amolo Odinga, that's the card that people are not seeing. People are contemplating that maybe this time round he's going to play the kingmaker. He's not going to play that kind of politics that he's going to front himself. But what if the man changes his mind along the way?
Decides to go
decides to go for 2022 and exploit the rift between one William Ruto and one Gideon.
Yeah. Nerima, do you think that's a possibility? Given again, I mean, if we are to speculate here, Raila seems to be taking a position of kingmaker yet again. It looks like he's almost, even listening to Abdul Samad, who they had the trip with yesterday, one of the statements he made, and this maybe is just, might be reading too much, but one of the statements he made, he said that come 2022, even Coast Region might be in a position to produce a presidential candidate, which sometimes would make you wonder, is ODM already thinking that Raila Odinga is not on the ballot?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both where people are not really sure. This would be, what, his 5th time if he does. And at the same time, he must measure the temperature of the public. It's not going to be the same. In 2022, the average age is going to be 19 years old. That means most of the voters at the moment are 14. So do they necessarily relate to Raila Odinga? Right now, not really. And a lot of young people listen to their parents determining who they are going to vote. Basically, the people who talk around them. And they're getting their information from Facebook, not necessarily the news or the internet, and from gossip from friends and things like that. So what I'm trying to say is, right now, the way we saw 2017 play out, a lot of people are kind of worn out. And to hear that he's going to vie again, it's going to be difficult to shift public opinion to rally behind him again. And we see that even when he would put up posts on Facebook. And it was interesting to see how people are actually lashing out at Raila. And this is someone that many, many people respect to a point where they wouldn't really speak back to him.
And I mean, his following is almost fanatical.
Yes, he's Baba. So you're seeing that the public that he's dealing with is shifting, and it's changing to a new dynamic that he doesn't necessarily can predict. And I believe that for 2022, he should actually be looking at a protege or mentoring somebody else to take that position, and not necessarily him, because there will be a bit of a disconnect of the public that he's leading.
Okay, and that's the other thing about our Kenyan politics and politicians, and I don't know if it's Kenyan or African. Would one say that there's actually a protege that Raila has been working with that you can see would take over?
Before I answer your question, let me differ with my colleague here, Nerima, and try to bunt on this issue about Raila Odinga. Whatever Raila Odinga is doing this time round, he did it some time back. In 1997, when opposition was sure that they were going to remove Moi from power, Raila did the same thing.
But that's
he went for the handshake. But what we are facing this time round is just that we have this we are in the digital era where people can air their views, and you can easily, there's some kind of interaction between our leaders, what our leaders communicate, and the feedback that we get. We are easily able to get. But in 1997, it was also the same. Raila made one of the most unpopular decisions according to his political constituency. This time round, again, it's one of those unpopular decisions. But Raila being Raila, when he says left turn, his constituency will just turn. They will not ask why. And that's what is going to happen. What is not written in this story
but is that true?
Because some space that we are leaving for one Raila Odinga that he can exploit.
Joe, you're contradicting yourself in the sense that we are in a digital age, or rather what Nerima has said, that we are in a different, the dispensation has changed. And we're looking at the younger generation who ask questions. They probe. They don't just take things because you've given to them. But you're saying that Raila has a following, and yes, he does. He does have a good following that will not ask. If he says left, they go left. If he says right, they go right. But that may have changed.
It has, because you have people who, in his own backyard, are not even with him. They are not really opposing him, but they are not in his party. And that is something that's a dynamic that's changing. And one thing about Raila that's interesting, a lot of his decisions, we make it appear as though they were all strategic. Some things just happened. And not only that, we expect things like for him to appear with a new trick. Every time you talk about Raila, people are like, you know, Kanu, he walked out, he survived, and then they're expecting another magic trick just like that. But, you know, there comes a time when your magic is over. There comes a time, and it only takes a wise man to realize that that time is here. And start
but having said that, and as we're getting to 2017, there was also the narrative that Raila had his last bullet. It was his last bullet. But it looks like somehow he's able to remain relevant despite, because again, there were those who were saying if Raila doesn't make it to president in 2017, then it's done, it's over. But who is still flooding the headlines? It is Raila Amolo Odinga. So he just seems to have a way of reinventing himself and remaining relevant. And with time, like you're saying, maybe it is by chance, but maybe he's doing some things and then he realizes, because the other thing is that he's he's good at, he has a sixth sense of identifying an opportunity.
Yes.
So he may be doing this maybe just to try and gather things, but with time, he may realize I actually have a following which I can go for, gold. So we'll wait and see. But Joe, do you think that this is likely to change the political terrain, especially in Rift Valley, given that now we have two leaders who we are not quite sure how it's going to be? We have William Samoei Ruto and we have Gideon Moi.
It's not going to change the terrain in Rift Valley per se, because what I believe is that the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto, has solidified his support across Rift Valley. What he's doing right now, he's trying to get more support from other regions, as per his competitor, Gideon Moi, who is now starting to realize that he needs the Rift Valley first before he goes out. Yeah.
Okay, and Rima, I don't know your thoughts on the fact that evidently, I think because of exposure and time and position, the Deputy President probably enjoys wider support as compared to Gideon Moi.
I believe so, but also I think we take for granted how much elders influence our politics. And a lot of times in our politics, names matter a great deal. It doesn't even matter if you're a great candidate. It's just your family heritage. And a lot of times people go to the ballot box and see a name they identify with, a wife, a son, and they select that individual. Gideon has the advantage of having a father's name. And within the Rift Valley, that might work to his advantage, making it more difficult for Ruto. But in the wider aspect and spectrum of things, people do see Ruto as a worker and somebody who doesn't necessarily banter a lot politically, but he's seen to have action shots and seeing development progress. And so that might be something that people vote upon. So I think it's going to be a tight race and something that's going to be interesting to see unfold, especially as people begin to align themselves behind the different parties.
Okay, and I guess also, again, because of experience, when you listen to, because one of the things I think that a politician needs to have as a very good quality is the ability to just speak, just, an oratory gift. And Ruto definitely has a way with words. There are some statements that he makes, and again, just like Raila, he's able to kind of reinvent himself. There are times he's been in trouble, in terms of what has happened, but he comes out with some statements and people suddenly feel that this is a leader that they can follow.
Yeah. What we are trying to expound here, one thing that I'm getting is that 2022 is about William Samoei Ruto and somebody else
who we don't know.
Who we don't know.
You're stuck with William Samoei Ruto.
Yeah.
Open your eyes, Joe Kalenda. There are others who are coming, but we can also speculate on who else it can be.
Yeah. But what is going to be happening and what is happening currently, one thing that we must know is that Ruto has earned his political space, Ruto has carved his niche, and he's running away with it. The rest of the pack should realize that as fast as possible and join the race. Yeah, as quickly as possible. And if one Gideon Moi is ready to join the race, let him join the race openly.
Maybe he has already joined it by virtue of the fact that he has openly said he is interested in.
Skipping that.
I think Nerima Wako is holding brief for Gideon Moi, but
I could say the same to you with Ruto.
No, I think all she did was just mention that he has declared his interest and he is equally able to go for that position. And come 2022, well, they say a day in politics is a very long time. So we have 4 years thereabouts, so a lot could change in the political terrain. But that also brings us to a reminder of our question today that we'd like to hear from you. What do you make of the meeting between Raila Odinga and the retired President Daniel Arap Moi? What are your thoughts or what are your reactions to yesterday's meeting between Raila Odinga and retired President Daniel Arap Moi? Could we be reading too much into it, or like Joe Kalende would like us to believe, or is there really more than meets the eye, especially given that there is that part of the meeting that none of us know. Again, a unique thing with Raila and even Uhuru's meeting, there's a part of the meeting that we seem not to know. Maybe he'll unleash those details at a convenient time, but that remains to be seen. So you let us know, and the hashtag is Morning Express KTN. If you'd like to tweet, it's at KTN News, or you can tweet me directly, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga. To other stories now. The parliamentary